Welcome to today's presentation of Intensive English Programs in the United States, hosted by Education USA and featuring Kate Kirk. I'll tell you a little bit about Kate Kirk in a moment, but first off, Education USA is funded by the U.S. Department of State. We are dedicated to helping Canadians with any questions they have about studying in the United States, including undergraduate, graduate, and even English language services. And so I know this appeals to many of our French-speaking folks here in Canada. So hopefully Kate will be able to answer some of your specific questions. My name is Jenica Heim, and I am currently the Interim Education USA Advisor. As mentioned, we provide free advising services. We help students with understanding the process of studying in the United States. So please contact us here at Education USA if you have any further questions. My email address is ottawa@educationusa.info. I'll type that in the chat, and it will also be at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce Kate. Kate Kirk has worked at the Georgia Institute of Technology's Intensive English Program for approximately 3 years. She has worked in the field of international education for almost 10 years with roles in international student services, study abroad, and teaching ESL. Kate also holds degrees in philosophy and music. So please welcome Kate to the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jenica. I appreciate that introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for our webinar today on intensive English programs in the U.S. As Jenica said, my name is Kate, and I look forward to providing you all with a better understanding of this area and answer any questions you may have. To give you a little more background as to my expertise, I am an international student advisor and registration coordinator at the Georgia Institute of Technology's Intensive English Program. In my position, I assist individuals applying to our program, advise current students on immigration issues, and liaise with Education USA advisors and sponsored coordinators around the world. So I wanted to give you a roadmap for today's presentation. First, we'll look at different types of ESL programs, highlighting how intensive English programs are distinct from other programs. Then we will review the benefits of IEPs in the U.S. and how to choose the right program for you. Next, we will take a look at the application process, what is required and what to prepare for. And then we'll weigh different options for acceptance into degree programs. And then we'll, of course, take any questions you have at the end. So what is an ESL program? English as a second language programs encompass a variety of types of ESL courses provided to non-immigrants, immigrants, and even U.S. citizens who come from a non-native English-speaking household. ESL offices are either based on a university campus or, if independent, on a separate location. For the sake of simplicity, I've narrowed ESL programs down into 3 categories. We'll save IEP for last, as it will be our jumping off point and serve as the focus for the rest of our webinar. One type of ESL program is the short course. These are typically shorter in length, lasting a few weeks. They are usually meant for visitors here in the U.S., here for a limited amount of time, where the main focus of their visit is tourism. This type of course may also benefit professionals working in the U.S., looking for a little tune-up with their English skills. In addition to short courses, ESL offices may provide other programs that cater to visiting scholars and spouses, and some ESL offices may even create custom courses if they are met with a cohort of students, usually from a sponsored university or government, even from a private company. The largest type, though, is the IEP. IEPs typically run for a length anywhere from a couple months to an entire session. The main type of student this is typically targeted towards is an F1 visa, or in the case of Canadian students like yourselves, those that have an I-20. Now that we've taken a look at the types of ESL programs, I wanted to focus on IEPs specifically. Why study an IEP in the US? Why not study in Canada? I can't speak for IEPs in Canada, but I can tell you the benefits of IEPs in the US, based on both my experience and research. There are 4 main benefits I see: an academic focus, help with the admissions process to degree programs in the US, the linguistic and cultural immersion, and multi-level options for extended study. With these benefits as a total, an IEP is your bridge to a degree program in the US. Let's dive into these benefits each in more detail. Academic focus. High schools don't always prepare students for the rigors of university education. IEPs will. In an IEP, you'll read academic texts, learn appropriate citation styles and formats, write research papers. You'll improve your lecture note-taking to maximize efficiency and clarity of information. You'll hone presentation skills with experience public speaking and developing effective communication. You'll also experience group dynamics with group projects, classroom discussions, and even debates. You'll also develop time management skills, finding a balance from everything from your own coursework in the IEP, your homework, exams, presentations, to your personal time, to getting to visit important local sites, to even preparing for standardized tests and applying to degree programs. In addition to IEPs having an academic focus, they also help you prepare for the admission process to a degree program. If you're looking into admission into a top-tier university, you have to stand out. In an IEP, you'll work on developing your essay writing skills, which will help you have a unique voice in a letter of purpose or writing sample for your application. In addition to help with essay writing, some programs offer standardized test preparation courses in topics like the TOEFL or GRE. Some programs even offer institutional exams like the TOEFL. Another benefit is that you can start participating in extracurricular activities, which is a service often found in university-based programs. If this wasn't a big part of your high school experience, for instance, this is extremely helpful when it comes to demonstrating to the admissions office how you spend your time outside of the classroom. Think volunteer work, clubs, sports, etc. If you plan to go on to a degree program, linguistic and cultural immersion is crucial. Immersing yourself allows you to learn important American cultural references that you might otherwise miss being referenced in a classroom or seminar. Being in a classroom of other non-native English speakers from around the world and having opportunities for extracurricular activities, you'll also have plenty of experience practicing English inside and outside the classroom. In addition, those IEPs that are based on campus also provide you with 24/7 exposure to language. Campuses offer access to weekly activities like club meetings and international coffee hours. There are also guest lectures and other events, which give you an opportunity to practice your English with native speakers. In addition to getting academic focus, help with the admission process to a degree program, and linguistic and cultural immersion, IEPs allow you to start at any proficiency level, allowing you to take placement upon arrival. When you take the placement test, you place in a particular level, and you stay in that level for the entire session. And then you advance to the next level if you successfully complete the first one. With this multi-level option for extended study, this allows you to stay anywhere from one session to over a year. With this option for extended study, IEPs help you meet the language proficiency requirements necessary to get into a degree program. So we've looked at the benefits of IEPs in the US. How do you choose the right program? There are multiple things to consider when looking at a program. Take a look at the availability of services. Does the program offer extracurricular activities, group trips, weekly events? Does it offer an institutional TOEFL exam? How about one-on-one mentoring, tutoring with teachers, and advising with staff? What qualifications do the teachers have? Do the teachers have master's degrees in the related field, in the field of teaching English as a foreign language? Have they taught ESL before? Have they taught outside the US? Do they have experience working with international students? In terms of location, is it cold or hot weather that's a deal breaker for you? For me personally, I can't take extreme cold weather for an extended amount of time. So it depends on what you're most comfortable with. If you plan to rely on public transportation, will you have access to it in the program you're looking at? Do you prefer an urban or rural environment? In terms of demographics, what are you looking for in a town or city? What is there to do and see? Is there a lot of diversity there? What is the size of the population? And similarly, in the program itself, what's the size and country breakdown? If you already have a degree program in mind, what is the proximity of the IEP to the university? Is it close? If you know which university you want to apply to, I would recommend checking to see if they have an ESL program on site. Keep in mind that though some offer conditional admission, top-tier programs typically do not. And those that do offer conditional admission usually lock you into taking the whole ESL program, eliminating the opportunity to move at an accelerated pace and/or opt out of taking the rest by taking the TOEFL. I would also recommend looking into the alumni. What does the program's alumni have to say? What's the program's reputation? Check LinkedIn, other social media would be my best suggestion to you. So before we move on, I just wanted to check the chat right quick to see if there are any questions. Sure, so one question, would you be able to share what the typical IEP curriculum looks like? Yeah, I would be happy to do that. From what I've found, typically the core courses you would have in an IEP would be four-pronged. You would have grammar, writing, reading, and usually a combination of speaking and listening. Now, depending on the IEP program, they may offer more professional development or business-related courses. I know in our program, for instance, we offer Admissions 101 or Business Case Analysis. And this is not uncommon in other IEPs as well, but they are slightly different in what is exactly covered in the curriculum. Those are probably slightly different. But in general, the core courses would be grammar, writing, reading, and speaking, listening. Does that help? Let's see. Do I have any other questions so far? Okay, great. No problem at all. Okay, so now that we've looked into finding the right program for you, let's review the general application process for IEPs in the U.S. Okay. So it's important to note that being Canadian, you do not need to get a visa in order to enter the U.S. for study. So this cuts down your preparation time considerably compared to other international students. And it also ensures that you can't get denied an F1 visa. To enter the U.S. for your studies, you'll need to get an I-20, receipt of your CVIS fee payment, your passport, and a financial support document. In order to get to this point, there are 2 steps. First, you'll want to complete your application and send it off for processing. The second step will be when you receive that acceptance packet and all the documents in it, reviewing it, looking at your I-20, and paying the CVIS fee. So let's take a look at each of those steps now. So you've picked the program you would like to attend. You'll next need to complete the application process. And I've kind of given a general overview of the minimum requirements you'll typically find in an application. Application forms usually require the minimum of your full name, date of birth, gender, your permanent address in Canada, emergency contact information for you, and your signature. Second, there's usually an application fee. IEPs usually require this, and they're typically non-refundable. And these fees vary. I've seen that it's typically anywhere from $100 to $150. But the good news is if you need to defer to a later session, most IEPs are pretty flexible in letting you also defer your application fee, so you don't have to pay it again. Your next requirement is submitting a copy of your passport information page. And this is the photo of you in your passport, including the machine readable zone. And the machine readable zone, which is the MRZ, is the section found at the bottom of your passport page. And it has your name, both family and given, divided by a series of carets. The last main requirement is the financial support document. This is your proof of funding. You'll want to show proof of funds of the length of time you will study, the minimum being at least 1 session or semester in length. Funds should be enough to cover tuition and fees and living expenses. I'm sorry, I see we have another question. Does my institute give any college credit to a student in an IEP program? That's actually a great question, and I was actually going to come up to that in a moment. I'd like to bracket that. I'd like to say briefly that ours, it's categorized as continuing credit units, so it's not for credit, it's non-credit. But students in our program, for instance, they receive a certificate and a continuing education unit. But there are some programs that offer 4-credit courses in IEP, and I'll get to that a little bit later, but feel free to bring it up again at the end if I didn't fully answer your question, okay? No problem at all. Okay. So, the second, let me move right along here. Okay, so now that you've completed, oh, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The second step is receiving your acceptance packet and I-20 and paying the CVIS fee. So first you'll want to review all pre-arrival information. Knowledge is power, right? So confirm your registration and placement test dates, confirm the payment information, review travel and housing information, and then plan your trip. You'll also want to take a look at that acceptance letter for any additional information. You'll want to confirm your name and session date. Let's see. Next, take out your I-20 and pay the SEVIS fee. And I've included the link to the SEVIS fee payment on the slide here, but that information would also be in your acceptance packet when you apply and get accepted. Make sure you print that receipt as proof of your SEVIS fee payment so you have it when you enter the U.S. Finally, and I think it's important to note that many schools do have medical requirements. So in addition to your program information and paying the SEVIS fee, you'll want to check to see if there are any immunization requirements for your program. Many schools do require certain immunizations in order for you to register. So you're pre-registered and then you will arrive and pay for the session. But if you do not have the proper immunizations, you may have trouble registering for classes. So it's important to note. Sometimes an immunization form comes with the acceptance packet, but if not, you'll want to check with the school to confirm what is or isn't required. So now that you've completed steps 1 and 2, you can enter the U.S. Remember, no visa needed for Canadian students. Very good news for you. You'll show your I-20, proof of SEVIS fee payment, passport, and proof of funding to Customs and Border Protection when you enter the U.S. For more information about this, please feel free to visit the U.S. Embassy's website, and we've provided a hyperlink on the slide here. Okay, so now that we've reviewed the application process for IEPs in the U.S., let's take a look at options for acceptance to degree programs. Here we will focus on bridge programs and conditional admission. We'll then take a look at STEP programs, as it is in a slightly different category than the first two. Okay. The two most common paths to degree programs in the U.S. are bridge programs and conditional admission. Bridge programs are agreements between an ESL program and certain degree programs. With bridge programs, certain application requirements are waived. For instance, such agreements may waive tests like the TOEFL with proof of successfully completing a certain level of ESL courses. IEP courses are typically not for credit. Remember, I mentioned that we'll be coming to this later. So in bridge programs, or when you have agreements between an IEP and a degree program, typically this bridge program is with IEP courses that are non for credit. Instead, they offer continuing education units, which I mentioned before. And these do not transfer to other programs. But you typically do get a transcript and certificate when you complete the program. Another common path is conditional admission. Conditional admission is an agreement established within the admissions office of a degree program. This agreement offers acceptance to a degree program pending successful completion of ESL courses offered at that same university. Upon completion, the student is matriculated into the degree program. Now, in terms of credit, again, IEP courses are more often than not non-credit, but there are a few instances of 4-credit courses. As mentioned before, keep in mind that conditional admission can lock you into a program, forcing you to take the entire program without jumping ahead or waiving out with sufficient TOEFL scores. So the last main path to admission to a degree program is a STEP program. A STEP program is an agreement between some universities with smaller universities or colleges to allow students to take the main core classes. Main core classes, for instance, if you're an engineering student or math student, you would take the basic core classes in math required for a degree program in engineering. You would take it at the smaller institution. Upon successfully completing these courses, students are offered acceptance to the larger university in order to finish out their degrees. Such programs often include an academic advisor to ensure the student is on track to successfully transfer to the desired degree program. These programs help students save money and get individual academic attention. I think STEP programs are amazing. They're a great option. And I mentioned them again, they're in a slightly different category than the former two, than bridge and conditional admission, because it's available to U.S. citizens and it's not ESL focused. But again, it's still a valuable option to consider. Oh, it looks like we have a question here. No? Okay. Thought maybe we did. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so we have a question here. Can we issue I-20s on conditional admission? That's another great question. If the program offers conditional admission, a conditional admission there again meaning that if you successfully complete the ESL courses at the university, then you are conditionally admitted to the degree program. If conditional admission is allowed at that university, then they do have the ability to issue you a conditional admission I-20. So yes, that's a very good question. Okay. All right, so we've reviewed acceptance to degree programs. I wanted to break before we ended to see if anyone has any additional questions here. It can be more about conditional admission. I would be happy to answer any other questions, or if anyone has questions about clarifying more on non-credit or for-credit programs, I'd be happy to answer any other questions. Let's see, question. Does a bridge program always have a third-party ESL program on campus? That's a good question. So I should probably clarify that. I can, let me use our school as an example for you. So we have bridge program agreements with, I would say, 6 other universities. And none of them are actually Georgia Tech. They're all different programs. One of them is actually an agreement with a university that has a STEP program, interestingly. So you can study with us, opt out using high scores if you successfully complete our program. Yeah, sure. I can go back to the STEP program slide. Yeah. So like I was saying, no problem at all. Like I was saying, so we have a bridge program agreement with one school that allows our students who have successfully completed our highest level, which is level 700. If they complete that, then they can waive their TOEFL scores to get into this university. And then that university has a STEP program with Georgia Tech. So they can take their core classes for a cheaper cost than going to Georgia Tech, for instance. And in addition to that, they get one-on-one academic advising to make sure they're on the right track to then transferring and getting immediate acceptance to Georgia Tech to finish their program. Does that answer your question? So to go back to the original question, does a bridge program always have a third-party ESL program on campus? Not always. If I understand correctly, it's not always the case. Because like I said, we have agreements with about 6 other universities, bridge program agreements, and they don't necessarily have an ESL program on in-house to assist them and their ESL students with meeting their language proficiency requirements. I hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to clarify. That's a great question. Okay, so the question is, does the in-house ESL have to go through an accreditation process? With universities, they don't have to, but what you want to do is make sure you find an ESL program that is accredited. And I'm going to put up a few names of accreditations. Let's see. Accreditation services, so you know what to look for when you are doing web searches for ESL programs. I can tell you for us, we recently went through our CEA accreditation, and it's a very important English language accreditation process. And so we just got accredited through CEA, but you also want to make sure that the English language program is a member of UCEEP. Both of these together are just good criteria to make sure that you're picking a program that has good accreditation and is widely recognized, has a good reputation. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Perfect. Excellent. Okay, another question. Is there any preparation available online to study the TOEFL and, oh yes, so there is the TOEFL IBT. Off the top of my head, I can think of a few resources that we, for instance, provide on our website to help you kind of prepare for the TOEFL IBT. If you don't mind, I would love to send you that information by email. Or actually, Jenica, what I can do is follow up with you with a thorough list of information and resources for preparing for the TOEFL IBT. Excellent. Okay, I will. My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay. Excellent. Are there any other questions? Okay, well,
received a lot of great questions, Kate, I have to say.
Definitely. Well, I'll hand it back off to you. Oh, another question. Let's see.
Go for it.
Okay, perfect. Does the in-house ESL program need to be vetted by DHS before we can issue I-20s? Wow. Is this a recurring attendee? Because he has amazing questions. Pearson? Excellent question. All schools are vetted by DHS. So you can't, any school that can issue an I-20 first has to be vetted by DHS, and they issue us what is called an I-17, and an I-17 is our verification that we are allowed to accept international students, that we have, we meet the requirements necessary to successfully teach students and help them succeed academically. So when we have our I-17, then we are allowed ourselves to actually create the I-20 for our international students. So yes, make sure you check and see that they have the capability to issue I-20s. If not, that's a very good indication that they are not authorized by the U.S. government to host international students. Oh, wonderful. Great, thanks Pearson, for the questions. Oh, wonderful. Pearson said that she'll be checking in with me more and be asking more questions. Yeah, feel free to email me. There's my email below in the slide, and in case anyone's having problems viewing that, I realize the font's a little bit dark. Perfect. All right, there you go. yeah, but feel free to follow up with me, and anyone viewing the slide today or who will be viewing it in the future on YouTube, feel free to reach out to me with any questions you may have. I'm happy to help. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Well, I'll go ahead and hand things back off to Jenica. Thank you so much, Jenica, for having me on today, and thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. That was very informative, and Prison definitely threw some tough questions at you, and you seem to be a wealth of information about these kinds of programs. So thank you for that. As mentioned, this will be posted on our YouTube channel, and anybody who's attended today will receive the list of resources. If you are watching the recording of this, please follow up. And you can ask for those resources. As you can see at the bottom of this slide, our email address is ottawa@educationusa.info. I also want to let you know about some upcoming events. These two major fairs, Study and Go Abroad and US College Expo, Education USA is at every city except for Victoria. We won't be making it there, but we'll be at every other city for these events, and that's an opportunity to speak with us one-on-one. You can ask about ESL programs or any kinds of undergraduate or graduate level programs. Make sure to connect with us. So subscribe to our newsletter, check out our website, hit us up on social media. We have all sorts of tips, and as you can see, our webinar series is great. So if you join the newsletter, you'll always know what the next webinar is and whether or not it's something that interests you. So please join me one more time in saying thank you to Kate for all the valuable information she imparted today. And with that, please enjoy your day.